The Grand Hall of the Galactic Coalition buzzed with panic. Representatives from 12 different species talked over each other, their voices rising in fear. Emergency lights flashed red along the curved walls. On the main screen, another planet disappeared into darkness. "That's the third world this cycle," said Elder Zixtal, his blue skin wrinkled with age and worry. The old Araxian leaned heavily on his staff. "The void grows stronger with each consumption." Councillor Mika of the Veldorians fluttered her leaf-like appendages in distress. "We have no way to fight this thing. None of our ships are equipped for battle." Captain Krill, a tall insect-like mantid, clicked his mandibles. "My people have sent probes into the void. None returned. We cannot understand what it wants or how it thinks." The coalition had existed in peace for over 500 years. They were explorers, scientists, and diplomats. Not warriors, not fighters. Their ships carried sensors and laboratories, not weapons. And now, something called the Void moved through their space, swallowing worlds whole. "Perhaps we can negotiate," suggested another counselor, voice trembling. "With what?" snapped Krill. "It consumes everything it touches. It does not respond to signals. It does not pause. It only devours." Silence fell over the hall. No one had answers. No one knew what to do next. Elder Zixtal cleared his throat. All eyes turned to him. As the oldest member of the council, his words carried weight. "There is one option we have not considered," he said softly. "Long ago, before many of your species joined the coalition, we faced another crisis. Not like this one, but dangerous all the same. We had help then." "What kind of help?" asked Mika. The elder's eyes looked distant. "A species unlike any in our coalition. Creative, resourceful, brilliant in their way. But also," he paused, searching for the right word, "dangerous." "Dangerous how?" Krill leaned forward, suddenly interested. "They solve problems in ways we would never consider. Their history is filled with conflict. They build tools to destroy as easily as we build tools to create. They were called humans." A murmur ran through the hall. Most had heard the stories. Some thought humans were just myths, tales to frighten children. "The humans are real," continued Zixtal. "After they helped us, our ancestors feared their warlike nature might spread through the peaceful coalition. So we made an agreement. They would sleep in cryopods on the old station Dreamweaver. We would wake them if we ever faced a threat we could not handle alone." The council erupted in debate. Some shouted that bringing violent creatures into their midst would only make things worse. Others argued that the void left them no choice. "Have you seen the humans yourself?" Mika asked Zixtal quietly. "Yes, I was young when they went to sleep. I remember their strange flat faces, their odd determination, their puzzling mix of violence and compassion." He tapped his staff on the floor. "They are our last hope." The vote was close, but fear of the void proved stronger than fear of the sleeping humans. The council decided to awaken them. Dr. Ilara, a young Veldorian scientist with purple fronds and bright eyes, volunteered to lead the awakening team. She had studied ancient records about human biology. "Be careful," warned Zixtal as she prepared to leave for the Dreamweaver station. "Humans are unpredictable. They feel emotions strongly. They form bonds quickly. And once they decide to fight for something, they rarely give up." Dr. Ilara nodded, both excited and afraid. "How many should we wake?" The elder considered. "Start with 5. They're leaders. We will need their knowledge quickly." As her ship departed for the ancient station, Dr. Ilara wondered what these humans would be like. Would they help save the coalition from the void? Or would they bring a different kind of chaos to their peaceful society? Only time would tell. The ancient station Dreamweaver floated in silent darkness. For 300 years, no one had walked its halls. The air inside was cold and still. Dr. Ilara moved carefully through the dim corridors, her purple fronds glowing softly to light the way. "This place feels like a tomb," whispered one of her assistants, A young mantid named Tick. It is, in a way, Ilara replied. But we are here to bring life back. They reached the Cryo chamber. 500 pods lined the walls, each holding a sleeping human. Frost covered the clear tops. Ilara checked her data pad, which showed 5 highlighted pods. These are the leaders we need to wake first, she said. Commander Ethan Clark, Dr. Olivia Martinez, Chief Engineer Alan Blackwood, Security Officer Natalie Winters, Communications Specialist Daniel Rodriguez. The team worked carefully, following the ancient instructions to start the warming process. Monitors began to beep. Lights flickered on pods as ice melted away. The first pod hissed open. Commander Ethan Clark lay still for a moment. Then his eyes snapped open. He sat up with a gasp, looking around wildly. "Easy, Commander," Ilara said softly. "You are safe." Ethan stared at her, his eyes widening at the sight of her purple skin and leaf-like fronds. What are you?" "I am Dr. Ilara of the Veldorians. You have been asleep for a very long time." "How long?" His voice was rough from centuries of silence. 300 years. Ethan's face went pale. He gripped the edge of his pod, knuckles turning white. "The others. We are waking 4 more of your people now." One by one, the other pods opened. Dr. Olivia Martinez woke quietly, her scientific mind already analyzing the situation. Alan Blackwood swore colorfully when he saw the aliens. Natalie Winters tried to reach for a weapon that wasn't there. Daniel Rodriguez simply stared in wonder. The humans huddled together, wearing simple medical gowns provided by Ilara's team. They looked small and vulnerable, but there was something in their eyes that made the aliens nervous. "Why now?" asked Ethan, after drinking water and finding his voice properly. The agreement was clear. We would only be awakened in case of extreme emergency. Ilara nodded. "We face extinction. Something we call the void is consuming entire planets. We cannot fight it. We cannot communicate with it. We cannot stop it." Olivia frowned. "You've had 300 years of technological advancement, and you can't defend yourselves." The aliens looked uncomfortable. Tick clicked his mandibles nervously. "The Coalition focuses on peace and discovery. We have no weapons." The humans exchanged looks of disbelief. "No weapons?" Natalie repeated. "None at all." "Some small security tools," Ilara admitted. "Nothing that could stop the void." Alan shook his head. "So you put us on ice because we were too violent. But now you need that violence." "We need your innovation," Ilara corrected gently. "Your ability to solve problems in ways we cannot imagine." Ethan stood up, steadier now. Despite his simple gown and bare feet, he suddenly looked like a leader. "Show us everything you know about this void. Every scan, every recording, every bit of data. You'll help us." Ilara's fronds brightened with hope. "That was the deal," said Ethan. "But we do this our way. No holding back information. No restrictions on our methods." The humans dressed in clothes provided by the alien team. As they did, Daniel noticed something. "Where are our personal effects?" he asked. "The things that went into Cryo with us." Ilara hesitated. The council was concerned about certain items. "Our weapons," Natalie said flatly. "Among other things." Ethan's eyes hardened. "Get our things. All of them. Now." The aliens saw something in his expression that made them hurry to obey. The awakening had begun, but neither humans nor aliens knew exactly what they had started. The main control room of the Coalition headquarters buzzed with activity. Screens showed maps of nearby star systems, each with a dark spot where the void had passed through. The 5 humans sat at a large table, surrounded by stacks of data pads and holographic displays. 3 days had passed since their awakening. They had barely slept, working constantly to understand the threat. Ethan rubbed his tired eyes. "Show me the attack pattern again." Olivia adjusted the holographic display. The void first appeared here, then moved in this direction. She traced a line across the map. It's not random. It's following something. Alan studied the technical readouts of coalition ships. Their tech is amazing, but completely defenseless, like building a castle with no walls. Natalie paced behind them, her military training evident in her movements. We need to know if the void can be hurt. Has anyone tried shooting at it? The coalition members looked uncomfortable. Captain Krill clicked his mandibles. We have no weapons that could shoot at it. None. Natalie asked in disbelief. There are mining lasers, suggested a young Araxian engineer. For cutting asteroids. Ethan nodded. That's a start. We'll need to modify them. Daniel sat slightly apart, watching recordings of the void's movements. There's something strange about its behavior, he said quietly. It's almost like... Like what? Olivia moved closer. Like it's searching for something. Or someone. Elder Zixtal, who had been observing silently, spoke up. The void appeared shortly after our explorers returned from the uncharted sectors. Perhaps they brought something back. Ethan's eyes narrowed. Where are these explorers now? Their ship was the first to be consumed, Krill answered. Olivia suddenly looked up from her datapad. I think I see a pattern. The void isn't just one thing. It's billions of tiny organisms moving together. She showed them enhanced images of the void's edge. Tiny particles moved in perfect unison, like a swarm of insects. A hive mind, Alan said. That changes everything. How? Asked Mika, who had joined them. If it's a swarm, it might communicate through some kind of signal. Disrupt the signal. Alan didn't finish his thought, but the humans all nodded in understanding. Ethan stood up. We need to wake more of our people. Engineers, weapons specialists, communications experts. The coalition members looked nervous. Counselor Mika spoke hesitantly. The council is concerned about awakening more humans. Your approach is quite different from ours. Your approach got 3 planets destroyed, Natalie said bluntly. Daniel stepped forward. What my colleague means is that different problems require different solutions. Right now, you need our solution. Ethan looked at the coalition members. We understand your concerns, but time is running out. The void is heading toward your most populated system. How many will die if we don't stop it? The aliens exchanged glances. Finally, Elder Zixtal nodded. Wake your specialists. But please remember, Commander, that we hope to save lives, not take them. Taking lives is never the goal, Ethan replied, but sometimes it's the price of saving others. As the meeting ended, Olivia pulled Ethan aside. I need to talk to Dr. Ilara about the void's biological nature. There might be a way to communicate with it. Do it, Ethan said, but also prepare for the possibility that it doesn't want to talk. Alan approached them with a rough sketch. I have an idea for converting those mining lasers into something more useful, but I'll need help. Ethan looked at the coalition members who were watching the humans with a mixture of hope and fear. You'll get it. We all need to work together now. Outside the windows of the control room, stars twinkled peacefully. But somewhere out there, the void was coming. And no one knew if even the humans could stop it. 1 week after the humans awoke, the coalition shipyard buzzed with activity. Drills whirred and sparks flew as workers transformed peaceful exploration vessels into something new. Alan Blackwood stood in the center of the chaos, directing teams of aliens who had never built weapons before. The power coupling goes there, he shouted over the noise, and make sure the cooling system is double-checked. 20 more humans had been awakened from cryo sleep. They worked alongside the coalition species, teaching them skills long forgotten. On the main ship, Natalie Winters trained a group of nervous Veldorians and Mantids. Hold the weapon firmly, she instructed, showing them how to grip a laser rifle modified from mining equipment. Keep your stance wide for balance. A Veldorian named Leth dropped his rifle. I have never hurt another living thing, he said quietly. Natalie's expression softened slightly. I hope you never have to. But if the void comes for your family, Wouldn't you want to protect them? Leth picked up the rifle again, his leaf-like hands trembling less now. In the science lab, Olivia worked with Dr. Ilara to understand the void better. Screens showed microscopic images of particles collected from the edge of the destroyed planets. The swarm communicates through sonic vibrations, Olivia explained. If we can create the right frequency, we might disrupt their connection. Dr. Ilara's fronds moved in excitement, like singing a different song that drowns out their song. Exactly, Olivia smiled. Now we need to find their frequency. Daniel Rodriguez spent his days with the Coalition's communications team. He studied the strange signals that had been detected near the void. There's a pattern here, he told Ethan during their daily meeting. It might be trying to communicate, but on a level we don't understand yet. Ethan nodded, his face tired but determined. Keep working on it, but our priority is defense. The Coalition Council watched the humans with mixed feelings. The military presence made many uncomfortable, but they could not deny the progress. Elder Zixtal met with Ethan on the observation deck. Together, they watched the fleet taking shape below. Your people work quickly, the elder said. We've had a lot of practice preparing for war, Ethan replied. It's what we do best. And what you do worst, the elder added gently. Ethan looked at him sharply, then sighed. Maybe you're right. But right now, our worst trait might save your people. A sudden alarm interrupted their conversation. They rushed to the command center, where a holographic display showed a small object approaching the station. It's a probe from the void, Captain Krill reported. Small, but definitely the same composition. Ethan's voice was firm. This is our chance to test our defenses. Prepare the prototype disruptor. Alan's voice came over the comm system. Disruptor ready, but it's not fully tested yet. We don't have time for full testing, Ethan replied. Launch when ready. The Coalition members watched nervously as the humans took control of the situation. A small ship moved into position and fired a beam of energy at the approaching probe. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the probe began to break apart, its swarm structure falling into chaos. Cheers erupted throughout the station. Alan's voice came back, excited. It worked. The sonic disruption broke their communication. Ethan allowed himself a small smile, but it quickly faded. That was just a probe. The real void is much larger and probably smarter. But we have a weapon now, Natalie said, joining them. Something that works. Olivia looked at the data coming in from the probe's destruction. And we know more about how they communicate. This is just the beginning. Ethan nodded. Increase production of the disruptors. We need enough for the entire fleet. He turned to the Coalition leaders. And we need to be ready for first contact with the main swarm. The aliens looked at each other with new hope in their eyes. For the first time since the void appeared, they had a chance. The Coalition fleet hovered at the edge of the Kirin system. 50 ships, once built for peaceful exploration, now bristled with hastily built weapons. On the command ship, Ethan stood before the view screen, watching the empty space before them. The void will be here within the hour, he said. Is everyone ready? Around him, humans and aliens worked together at control stations. Natalie checked weapon systems. Alan monitored the disruptor technology. Olivia studied biological readings. Daniel listened for any signals. As ready as we can be. Alan replied, his voice tense. Captain Krill, now second in command, clicked his mandibles nervously. Many of our people have never faced danger before. They'll do fine, Ethan said with more confidence than he felt. Just follow the plan. The plan was simple. The main fleet would draw the void's attention. Meanwhile, Natalie would leave a small team to plant disruptor beacons around the edge of the swarm. If they could create enough disruption, the void might break apart. Contact, shouted a sensor operator. The void has entered the system. The view screen filled with darkness. It looked like a black cloud moving through space, consuming light itself. The size of it made everyone fall silent. Ethan took a deep breath. Begin phase 1. The fleet moved forward, spreading into formation. The lead ships fired their weapons, bright beams of energy striking the edge of the void. The swarm reacted immediately, parts of it surging toward the fleet. "It's working," Natalie said. "The void is focused on our ships. My team is ready to launch." Ethan nodded. "Good hunting." Natalie's small, fast ship detached from the fleet, followed by 5 others. They curved away, heading toward the edges of the void while the battle raged in the center. On the command ship, things quickly became chaotic. The void adapted to their weapons, changing its structure to absorb the energy. "The disruptors aren't working as well as we hoped," Alan reported. "It's learning our frequency." Olivia looked up from her station. "It's intelligent. It's evolving right before our eyes." A coalition ship disappeared into the darkness, its crew lost. Then another. Panic began to spread among the alien crews. "Hold formation," Ethan ordered. "We just need to buy Natalie's team enough time." On the small ships, Natalie and her team fought their own battle. They dodged tendrils of the void, racing to plant their beacons. Each beacon had to be placed at exact coordinates to create the disruption field. 2 beacons placed, Natalie reported. 3 more to go. A tendril of the void struck one of her escort ships. The ship spun out of control, then went dark as the swarm consumed it. "Keep going," Natalie said to her remaining team. "We can't stop now." Back on the command ship, more bad news came in. The void had split into 2 parts, one still engaging the fleet, the other moving toward the inhabited planet. "We're losing this battle," Captain Krill said quietly. Ethan's face hardened. "We haven't lost yet." Just then, Daniel called out from his station. "I'm picking up something strange, a pattern in the void's movements." Before he could explain, Natalie's voice came through the comm system. "Final beacon placed. Activating disruption field now." A wave of energy spread from the 5 beacons, meeting in the center of the void. The black mass shuddered, parts of it breaking apart. "It's working," Alan shouted. But the void fought back. It concentrated itself, becoming denser at its core. The disruption slowed it but didn't stop it completely. "We need more power," Natalie said. "I'm going to overload the main beacon." "That's too dangerous," Ethan warned. "Get out of there first." "No time," Natalie replied. "The rest of you pull back. I'll finish this." Her ship dove toward the center of the void, disappearing from sensors. Seconds later, a massive pulse of energy erupted from within the swarm. The void convulsed, large sections breaking apart and dissolving into space. The command ship shook from the shockwave. When they could see again, the void was retreating, pulling back from the system. "We did it," Alan said in disbelief. "It's running away." Ethan looked at the empty space where Natalie's ship had been. "Get search teams out there. Find survivors." The battle was over, but at great cost. 6 coalition ships lost, thousands of lives gone, and Natalie Winters, the fierce human warrior, was nowhere to be found. 3 days after the battle, the coalition headquarters was quiet. The humans had set up a small memorial for Natalie and the others lost in the fight. Many aliens attended, curious about the human ritual of remembering the dead. Ethan stood before a simple display showing Natalie's picture. "She died so others could live," he said softly. "That's what humans do at our best." The coalition members watched, moved by the emotion they saw in the humans. They had not expected warriors to have such deep feelings. In the science lab, Olivia and Dr. Ilara worked tirelessly to understand what had happened during the battle. They studied recordings and samples collected from the edges of the void. "Look at this," Olivia said, pointing to a screen. "The swarm changed its pattern when we attacked. It was protecting something at its center." Dr. Ilara's fronds rippled with excitement. "Not attacking, but defending." "Exactly. What if the void isn't trying to destroy? What if it's desperately trying to survive?" Alan joined them, bringing new data from the disruptor beacons. The readings show the void was consuming specific elements from the planets, not randomly destroying everything. Olivia's eyes widened. It's hungry. It's feeding on something it needs to survive. In the communications center, Daniel made a breakthrough. He had been studying the signals recorded during the battle. Ethan, you need to see this, he called through the comm system. When Ethan arrived, Daniel showed him a series of patterns on his screen. These signals came from inside the void during the battle. They're not random. They have a structure, a syntax. Are you saying the void was trying to talk to us? Ethan asked, skeptical. Not exactly talking, but communicating, yes. I think it was trying to tell us something. Ethan rubbed his tired eyes. Can you decipher it? Working on it, but I need more data. The Coalition Council called a meeting to discuss their next steps. The void had retreated, but sensors showed it regrouping at the edge of their space. Elder Zixtal spoke first. We have won a battle, but at great cost. What have we learned? Olivia stepped forward. The void appears to be feeding on specific elements. It's not attacking out of malice, but out of need. Needs can be satisfied in other ways, suggested Counselor Mika. Daniel shared his findings about the possible communication. If we can understand its language, we might be able to negotiate. Some council members laughed at this idea. Negotiate with a planet-eating swarm, one asked. Captain Krill silenced them. We should consider all options. The humans have shown us that different approaches can work together. Ethan had been quiet, thinking. Now he spoke. What if we offer the void what it needs, but direct it away from inhabited worlds? The room fell silent as they considered this. Ellen added, we could set up mining operations on uninhabited planets, extract what the void needs, and create a safe feeding ground. And if that doesn't work? Asked the council member. Then we fight, Ethan said simply. But let's try to understand first. Dr. Ilara had been working on something at her datapad. I believe I've identified the elements the void is consuming. They're rare, but we can find them in several uninhabited systems. The council debated this new approach. Some worried about helping the void become stronger. Others saw it as their best chance for peace. As the meeting ended, Ethan and Dr. Ilara walked together through the station. Your people are changing, Ethan observed, learning to defend themselves. And your people are learning there's more to problem-solving than force, she replied. Ethan smiled slightly. We're all evolving, I suppose. A junior officer rushed up to them, breathless. Commander, we found something in the search area. A small ship, heavily damaged. Ethan's heart raced. Any survivors? 1. Security Officer Winters is alive. Barely. Hope spread across Ethan's face. Perhaps they hadn't lost everything in the battle after all. And perhaps the void wasn't what they thought it was either. The true test would come when they faced it again. 2 weeks after the first battle, the Coalition fleet approached the edge of their most populated system, Naya Prime. The void had arrived there faster than expected. This time, failure meant billions of lives lost. On the command ship, Ethan stood with his team. Natalie was there too, still weak but refusing to stay behind. Her survival had given everyone hope. The plan is different this time, Ethan explained to the gathered captains. We're not just fighting. We're trying to communicate. Daniel had created a device to translate the patterns he'd discovered into signals the void might understand. Olivia and Dr. Ilara had prepared special containers filled with the rare elements the void seemed to need. We offer food first, Ethan continued. If that fails, we fight. But remember, the void is intelligent. It's not just destroying, it's surviving. The fleet moved forward slowly. At its center was a ship carrying the element containers. Around it, other ships formed a protective circle, their weapons ready but not active. The void waited like a dark storm cloud against the stars. It seemed larger than before, its edges rippling as if in anticipation. Begin transmission, Ethan ordered. Daniel activated his translation device. Pulses of sound and light shot toward the void in patterns that matched those they had recorded. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then the void changed shape, forming what looked like a funnel pointing toward them. "Is it attacking?" Captain Krill asked nervously. "No," Daniel said, watching his screens. "It's focusing its receivers. It's listening." The void sent back signals of its own. Daniel worked quickly to interpret them. "It's asking what we want," he said in amazement. Ethan looked at Olivia. "Tell it we want peace. Show it what we've brought." The ship carrying the containers moved forward. Using mechanical arms, it pushed the containers into space toward the void. The swarm surrounded the containers. The elements inside began to glow as the void absorbed them. The darkness seemed to pulse with new energy. "It's feeding," Olivia whispered. More signals came from the void. Daniel translated. "It's asking why we fight, then give food." "Tell it we fight to protect our people," Ethan said. "Ask why it attacks our worlds." The exchange continued for hours. Slowly, the truth emerged. The void was indeed a swarm consciousness, fleeing from an even greater danger in the far reaches of space. It had been desperate for the elements it needed to survive. "We can help each other," Ethan suggested through Daniel's translator. "We will provide what you need from uninhabited worlds. In return, you leave our people in peace." The void seemed to consider this. Its shape changed again, forming complex patterns that Daniel struggled to interpret. "It's agreeing," he finally said, "but it's also warning us about what's coming. The thing it's running from." A chill ran through the command center. One threat was becoming an ally, but a greater one waited beyond known space. 3 days later, the Coalition Council met again. Humans and aliens sat together as equals now, no longer separated by fear. "The void has moved to the uninhabited system we prepared," reported Captain Krill. "It's consuming the elements we provided and shows no signs of aggression." Elder Zixtal looked at the humans with new respect. "You were right to seek understanding before destruction." "And you were right to wake us," Ethan replied. "Together, we found a better way." Counselor Mika stood. "The Council has reached a decision. We ask that the humans remain awake, join our society fully, help us prepare for whatever threat may come next." The humans exchanged glances. 300 years had passed since they went to sleep. Their old world was gone. But here was a new one, with new challenges. "We accept," Ethan said, speaking for all of them. That evening, Ethan stood with Dr. Ilara, watching workers remove the remaining cryopods from the Dreamweaver station. Inside each pod, a human waited to join this new galaxy. "When we put your people to sleep," Dr. Ilara said, "we feared what you might create. Now we see what you can save." Ethan smiled. "That's the thing about humans. We're good at breaking things, but we're even better at fixing them." Behind them, the stars shone brightly over a galaxy forever changed by the day when no one knew what to do. So they woke the humans from cryo sleep.